Hi, my name is Rob Nalley. I'm an agronomy student here at Murray State. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the human impact on soils. So what is soil? Soil is not the dirt you get underneath your fingers. Soil is alive. It's full of micro and macroorganisms. When we talk about microorganisms, we're talking about fungi and bacteria. When we talk about microorganisms, we're talking about Mr. Earthworm, ones we can see. So soil is composed of sand, silt, and clay, which make up its texture that determines what kind of crops we can grow or what buildings we build. Soil is the food and energy. When we go to McDonald's, the cows have eaten the grass, and potatoes are also used in the same way. They all have to do with soil. So how have urban soils been affected by humanity? Construction sites aren't really thinking about soil. It's just an engineering medium for them. Compaction from the machines, their bulldozers or excavators. Heavy metals and other pollutants from building, and then once the building's been built, they break down over time, which deposits heavy metals in the groundwater and within the soil. Here we see an excavator. He's breaking down through the soil horizons. Probably the topsoil's gone. And then here we see a soil compactor is compacting down the soil to build on. Here's a house which is probably used lead paint. That lead paint could break off, and then if you decide to build a little tomato patch next to your house, those heavy metals and the lead from the paint, you can end up in your tomato plant, which is highly dangerous. So how can a roadway affect soil? Automobiles can contain pollutants, which can seriously degrade soil. I mean, lead isn't made in gas anymore, but we have unleaded gas now. But if it's an older highway, that lead from gas can be there, oil, antifreeze, whatever else people decide to chuck out their window and end up in the groundwater in the soil. Here we see some trash somebody chucked out the window, and then some oil from the crash or a vehicle malfunction. So agriculture's negative impacts are a little more talked about. We have the compaction from machinery. Tillage removes the topsoil, it lessens the fertility. We're breaking down that soil structure. Livestock can remove vegetation. When you keep cows on a certain plot of land, they'll eat it dry because they need the food. And not having a crop rotation can remove the natural cycle for plants. So here we see somebody that tilled up some soils, probably after several times, it's beat up, it's clotted up, it's not fertile. So what steps can we take to improve our soil? I mean, when we start with, we want to prevent the damage. If we know what can cause the harm, we want to prevent it. And then once we have damaged soil, we want to remediate and bioremediate those damaged soils. As far as the urban prevention and construction sites, preserve as much soil as possible. They haven't really planned for it in a budget, but if there is room in the budget, practice those better soil working practices. Soil testing can be especially important, like if you have a garden next to your house, prevent your kids from getting sick. We all know that kids love to play in dirt. If you know that your house once had lead paint or there's mercury in your soil, test that to prevent that damage from happening. And then limit possible contaminants around your home. Everybody has accidents, oil that might get in your dirt or through your soil. Just try to limit those when you can. As far as urban remediation, bioremediation is the biological process which breaks down or transports those toxic materials. A garden or plant life can remove those pollutants from the ground. When the plant tissue is harvested, a great way is grass. Grass is growing every single year. Those roots can reach down deep in the ground and pull out all the negative pollutants. It's also important to compost and mulch, which can separate and improve the soil. That's not actually taken out, but it's keeping that away from either your kids or from getting on you. A costly way is having your soil removed and new soil put in. It's a costly way, it's not effective, but if you have the money, it's a useful practice. Here we can see the plant life would go deep down into the soil and reach even where machines couldn't to remove the soil. That's an effective way because you're not just removing the soil and forgetting about it, you're actually making it better. As far as agriculture prevention and remediation, conservation tillage, no-till can be costly because you're changing out all your machines, but it can keep your soil structure, which promotes long-term yield. When tillage is necessary, till in the right conditions. You don't want to till after a big rainstorm. Till after several clean, dry days, so you'll get those clods and you keep as much of your soil structure as possible. As far as your crop rotation, keep your fields cropped. Most people corn, soybeans, and then some kind of wheat in the wintertime. Always keep some sort of plant life over your fields so those don't erode away. And then, if possible, rotate your fields for livestock to keep those fields fresh because cows will just eat it dry. Here we see some no-till, some soybeans over some wheat. It's really important as far as keeping your nutrients as well because those soybeans are legumes and they're putting nitrogen back in the ground for your next growing season if you were to do corn. So here were some of my sources. I hope you enjoyed this video.